Birthright citizenship means anyone, as you heard there, who is born in the U.S. is automatically an American citizen. It applies to a child born to illegal immigrants or even tourists who are visiting the U.S. It's a policy guaranteed by the 14th Amendment, and it has been in place for more than a century. The president-elect says the policy is being taken advantage of, and it must end. Others say it is going to be a tough fight and a difficult battle, even impossible to overturn. Joining me now, Michael Wilds, managing partner at an immigration law firm and also an immigration attorney for the president-elect's wife, Melania Trump, and her family. Thank you so much for your time. This is a very complex issue. How difficult will his plan be if he chooses to move forth with this?
If the president chooses to go forward and change the 14th Amendment, it would require 2/3 vote in both the House and the Senate, the entire Congress, as well as ratification by 3/4 of all the nation's state legislatures. Again, the Citizenship Clause states all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state that they reside in. The way it doesn't apply is if you're a child born to diplomats. When you're a child born to diplomats, you're not subject to the jurisdiction thereof. You're also not able to be prosecuted to that jurisdiction criminally. So there's going to be great consequence if the administration attempts to do this, doesn't succeed, and it will bleed over into other areas of jurisprudence, not just immigration law, but criminal law and other areas as well. Sometimes you can make something that he would consider others bad worse. And I think the notion of taking citizenship away from people in this land that have children here. Now, I just want to state, if I can, as an immigration lawyer, I'm actually a second-generation immigration lawyer. My dad started our firm in 1960. He represented John Lennon in a celebrated case when the Nixon administration was coming to get him deported. There's nobody coming to America with the prayer that 21 years later they'll be sponsored by a child. There's no such thing as somebody getting born in America and then being able to bring people over unless it's 21 years later. That's how the law stands. So the question is, was this a scare tactic in politics? Is this something fundamental that the president and all these legislatures can come to terms with, or ultimately is now the pressure of doing this over because of the political effect of having won the election? We'll have to see.
Have there been attempts, Michael, before to end birthright citizenship?
Yes, there have been. And, you know, I teach at the Cardozo School of Law. There's something called jus sanguine and jus locale. In Europe, you get citizenship by virtue of your blood. Here, it's based on being born in the field. And we've had really notorious cases. We had a woman who gave birth to a child on an airline over U.S. soil. When the plane landed, the child was a citizen. The mother had to leave within 3 months because her visa was up after she gave birth to the child. So there are different dynamics as we engage with the world, but our founding documents and our founding parents portended a world where we would be judged based on the content of our character, the work ethic that we have. The greatest risk takers are entrepreneurs, are immigrants, and we have to kind of remind ourselves that the rules of engagement in treating everybody the same has a lot to do with that notion of being born on your soil as opposed to inheriting it, which seems kind of, you'll forgive me, snooty or so European. It's not American.
It's a tall task, but if he were to be successful, and when Trump puts his mind to something, he pushes on the gas. If ending birthright citizenship, would people already be given citizenship or birth certificates? Would this be grandfathered in? Are we at the point to look that far forward?
We have the notion in the Constitution of ex post facto laws. You can't make something illegal that at the time was legal. So it would be a new generation, and it depends how it would be created. But again, understand this. Both houses have to do it by an overwhelming majority. You can't even get them to agree on fixing a broken immigration law, let alone a amendment to the United States Constitution. And all the state legislatures, that means all the reds, the blues, and the purple states would have to come to an agreement.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.